Ooh-wee. Welcome back to another episode of Creative Mood. This week, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Montreal singer and artist Kallitechnis and her manager/boyfriend Jarret Mckenzie. I was put in touch through our mutual friend Aisha, aka Gayance, which is obviously someone I've had on my podcast and someone who I really genuinely adore. Moi, je suis team Aisha, c'est pas compliqué. It's been a long time coming for me because I've been listening to Kallitechnis' music for a long time now at Stingray. I used to program her first songs when I worked there. So this goes way back now. And I've been, of course, listening and following and heard some interviews. And it goes without saying that these are two very thoughtful people. And everything they do has meaning and purpose. And to be sitting there with them and talking to them, I can definitely tell you that there was a strong vibe of purpose. And I absolutely adore and I feel electrified when I meet people like that, because taking the performance aspect out of it for 1 second, I just want to say that focus is one of the most important things you can have in life. Success and ambition, it's a whole other thing, but just to be focused, the way they're focused and the way they come off, very serious, very focused, but very real and very light at the same time. You know, there was no struggle for that balance when I was with them. We speak of her new record because it feels good. Her new EP, I should say. I'm already aware that they're going to start, I believe they're finishing the next record. Anyways, these people are on to the next thing and the next thing. It's quite inspiring. So thank you, Aisha, for putting us in touch through Jarret. And thank you, Kallitechnis and Jarret, for coming over today. I look forward to meeting you again, and I hope that you come back on the podcast to talk about the new record and that we can dig deeper onto some of the really beautiful and important things that you guys brought up today. But wait. Before we get into today's episode, I would like to take a moment to talk about our sponsor. I'm talking about La Boutique Audiophonie. They sell and repair audio equipment. What I mean by that is I'm talking about amplifiers, speakers, and turntables. They are a certified repair shop by some of the biggest brands out there. They are located at 5971 Rue Saint-Hubert on our charming plaza. They even now offer at-home pickup. It's really simple. You can just call them for an estimate, and they have a 90-day guarantee on all of their repairs. Simply go on audiophonie.ca for all the details, or write them an email at audiophonie@live.ca. If you go in stores or you email them and you mention the Creative Mood podcast, you will get a 10% discount. It's that simple, folks. La Boutique Audiophonie. Say it again, folks. La Boutique Audiophonie. They sell and repair audio equipment. 5971 Rue Saint-Hubert, audiophonie.ca or audiophonie@live.ca. I should also mention, go follow them on Instagram, La Boutique Audiophonie. Now here is my interview with Kallitechnis and Jarret Mckenzie. Have a good week, folks. Stay safe. And we're good. Guys, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I made it this morning on time, and yet I was not on time to get you guys at the door.
Oh, no. We were the late ones, actually.
We were late, yeah.
It's very rarely do I get someone that's on time, to be honest.
Cliche artist shit.
Man, Pony was 2.5 hours late. She still holds the trophy on that, that thing. I'm really happy to have you guys here today. I've been listening to your music for a long time, and we were put in touch through Aisha, and to finally have you guys here to discuss this is something I've been looking forward to. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Likewise.
I wanted to talk about the creative process, of course. I want to talk about the latest EP that we were just talking about 2 seconds ago. I want to start right now with Selfish. So, what can you tell me about this song? How old is this one?
Maybe about a year old.
Okay.
And my process differs depending on who I work with, where they're located, where I'm at the time.
Sure.
And this is one of those instances where I received this production. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't tweaked at all. So I received this production, wrote on it, sent back the vocals, made sure everything was cool, got it mixed, that type of thing. And it's produced by Jarret Vandal. He's known.
Where is he located?
He's in Amsterdam.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's affiliated with Selection and known for his vandalized edits. He's a great DJ and a really talented producer. And I fell in love with this production. It has this like vintage, nostalgic feel.
Yes, very much so.
I approached it as such in the sense that like it conjures up a visual, and so I made sure that my writing to it was just as descriptive as the imagery in my head. So I tried to tell a story through it, and I'm super grateful that this type of process that would normally be more stale in comparison to working with somebody like and starting a beat from scratch. So this is not my preferred way to work.
Yes,
let's just get that clear. Like I prefer at this point not to just write on productions, but given the circumstance and just how much
when a song speaks to you, I guess.
Exactly. And he already did his job so well in telling a story just through the production of the song that it made my job easier. And so I just kind of like danced to the music that was already there, and it just ended up working out in synergy anyway. And that's just very telling of his production skills.
How do you I mean, I know it's a big question, but like I'm always curious because it feels like that's kind of time consuming to find all those collaborators, to get in touch with those people, to connect on that level, because we like a lot of artists, but to actually say let's work together feels like it's quite an involvement.
Yeah, but you know what? It's always happened very naturally because I don't think any type of like reaching ends up being effective, especially in the long term. Like you can't always be the one like seeking opportunities. I think you should attract opportunities, and when it's come to music, it's just a matter of like me bettering my craft, putting out that music, having people come to me based off of that, based off of connecting with my art, and then we can meet there. Like that could be how we gravitate towards one another. And then obviously that's reciprocated because I only really want to work with people whose music I enjoy.
Sure, of course.
So that's kind of how Juro and I connected as well.
Got it. And I want to talk about your singing. I want to say, first of all, I'm a big fan of your singing, of your voice.
Thank you. Everything
that you do, it's just pristine. So there's something about it that I feel like...
I'm fooling you. Clearly.
Sure. But I've seen those live performances. I don't feel like I'm being fooled.
Right, thank you.
When did you start singing?
I've been singing my entire life, but not ever really taking it seriously, not taking vocal lessons. I still don't, which is kind of like the next part of refining my process is I do want to start working with a vocal coach. But music has just always been a big part of my life, and I grew up on musicals, and my mom has a really pretty singing voice, so we would just always duet. And
that's really cute.
Yeah,
okay, I like that.
She actually was complaining to me yesterday, saying like we haven't karaoke together in a long time because she forces me to do particular songs with her.
That's amazing that you can actually do that with your mom, though. This is the first time I'm hearing someone say that. I love it.
Yeah. So in that sense, I've always been inspired because music has just always been like a big part of my life. But again, I haven't really gotten to the point where I am like really treating my voice as like an instrument that like I'm constantly perfecting. Like I do it, and what I mean by that is that like I do it naturally, not to like
Sure.
toot my own horn, but like it's very intuitive.
That's how that's how that works. I think, we shouldn't be fooled to think that like we have to have amazing technique or schooling. Most of the best musicians that have come here or that I heard about, they're just like you, self-taught. I'm self-taught.
And I mean, it means that I'm not perfect because there are certain things that I know with practice and with coaching, like I can achieve certain like notes that I know
Sure.
need technique and breath support, and I'm definitely gonna get there. But for now, I just relied on like my intuition and what feels good, and trying things and being like, oh, that sounds like shit, and like that's actually pretty cool. And at the end of the day, just it feeling authentic to me, it like coming out of my body and being
Sure.
a representation of how I feel.
Well, let me ask you something. It's a recurring theme on the podcast. Are you hard on yourself? Are you too hard on yourself?
I'm hard on myself.
Because how you're talking right now
Yeah.
versus what I'm listening to all the time, you're very, very, very good, and perhaps you're a little too hard on yourself.
I feel like I need to be. I think that being a human means constantly growing and constantly adapting and looking
Sure.
at what to improve. And it doesn't mean that I have to like be self-deprecating and like hate myself in the process, but
Sure.
noticing improvement is important. And of course, I have Jarret to keep me in check, because sometimes I think something's amazing and like not in a delusional way, but he'll just push me to be even better. He'll be like, you know what? Like, I think that you can take it there. You should redo the take or like whatever. And he'll push me to be even better. And I appreciate that, because
For sure.
then it leaves people like you saying that everything sounds pristine. So just elevating the quality to where it can be in that given moment is what we're here for.
I think Jarret is in the best position to have that perspective on your singing, on a take, on a given song. My ex-girlfriend is a classical singer, opera singer, and she knew my limits and she knew what I was trying to do. So kind of like Jarret in the sense, she would actually say, I think you can do that better, knowing I could, right? So for sure, that's a precious, precious dynamic. I say that because every week on the podcast, I talk to artists, and we are so demanding of ourselves, and a lot of times we actually make ourselves sick with that stuff, of not being satisfied, of not recognizing that what we're doing is amazing. And I know that even some of my listeners, they'll write to me saying, I can't believe that person, said that or feels that way. And it's something that we don't always take the time to speak on, but it's definitely a real thing where, I always feel like we should be just a little kinder with ourselves in what we do.
I agree.
And on that, Dinner with a Gemini. Hold on for a second. So am I to understand that there's going to be a music video for this song?
Indeed. Yes. Just wrapped up the trailers for it yesterday, and it's about ready to go.
Where did you see that?
I listened to Aisha's podcast,
Right. Okay.
doing my homework.
I appreciate that.
So tell me, how old is this one?
Dinner with a Gemini is about a year old, a year and a bit. Actually, another example of a long distance collaboration, receiving the production and writing on it. And I really had fun with this. I experimented with it in the sense that I approached a particular section in the song a bit like a rap, like a talk, like
absolutely.
a sing-talking kind of situation. And again, very much flexing my storytelling muscle here. Yeah.
I think you really nailed that part.
Thank you.
I appreciated the juxtaposition of both parts, actually. I feel that I don't exactly know the names of the artists or the specific songs, but your influences are beautifully sort of showcased throughout the whole EP.
Thank you.
And who did you work with on this song?
This is Jordan Lewis.
Got it.
Not someone I've met before, one of these like more disconnected collaborations, but we came together on the song, and yeah, again, it ends up working out when the intention is there and like.
Sure. Is he located in Montreal?
No, he's located in the States.
In Toronto. He
really?
bounces. Yeah, he bounces back and forth from Toronto to LA.
Oh, okay.
And those collaborations, Jarret, did you have a hand in making them happen, or how did these people approach you?
Yeah.
His manager had reached out. He was a fan of Kali, and he just wanted to collaborate with us in some way. So he mentioned Jordan, and he sent over a bunch of beats. This one really stood out. It sounded, to me, it gave me like 90s nostalgia, 90s like house party nostalgia, just like some cool shit. And yeah, Kali really liked it as well, and she absolutely murdered it, I think.
I would have to agree. I think it's really... I don't make R&B or hip-hop music, so I don't often collaborate on that kind of level where someone would send me a song to sing on. So I am fascinated by that process where like... I mean, I know it's kind of, trivial for you guys, but for me, it's quite novel. Like, I couldn't imagine getting a folder with like 10 songs and saying, yes, I should just pick one and sing on it. Like, that feels like, it feels great. Like, I feel like, I've gotten to the point in my life where I feel like I wish people would do that now. Just send me a song and say, just do it. Because it's a lot of work to do those instrumentals. But at the same time, I feel that it leaves the singer in an unfair advantage of being the last person in sometimes. And then it's like, everybody can be so critical of the vocal process. Like, do people often send back stuff, have like all these kind of comments and these notes, or do you usually just go, this is the thing?
I mean, not really. Like, it's always going to be a collaboration, even if I'm receiving like a pretty, like, fully like sketched out production. I think what's challenging for me is to not just feel like a voice on the song, but to like camouflage in the song and to feel like we're one in a very poetic way. Like, that's always my intention when, again, working this way, which is not my favorite, but can definitely yield great art. And that's pretty much it. And then sometimes if I like put on, like if I lay down my vocals and there still needs to be adjustments, then we'll just tweak the production to fit what I've done.
Right.
But of course, always getting the producers go ahead. I'm not like a dictator in that sense.
I understand. Yeah. Everybody's so precious about what they do, Like, I find that for me, I get very touchy when someone has something to say about my vocals. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you just sing it yourself, dog.
I could be like that sometimes. And then Jarret's like, solar ego Cassandra. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but that I was hearing you guys speak on that. And of course, I agree with that. But it is difficult because in that particular instance, sometimes people don't have the understanding that the voice comes from your body. It's not like a synth. It's not a guitar, It's not an exterior thing. Like, your voice has its limitations, and those limitations is what makes it you, so to speak.
Yep.
And I know some of my collaborators, sometimes they give me comments, and I'm like, man, honestly, like, you're killing my vibe right now. Let me lay down a full take. Let's live with it for a week.
Yeah.
And then let's just see how we feel about it.
Yeah.
I suppose that, when you're more attuned to that kind of process, you're more like, sort of a straight shooter in that sense.
I think it's about the balance too, right? It can't be too much of one and can't be too much of the other.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has to be happy. You don't want to change what you're doing because that is you, but you do also want to push yourself to be even better.
Yeah, it's a hard line to balance. You're absolutely
median.
Right. Yeah, I find that, soul over ego. I mean, sometimes I feel like I come at the thing where like, this is my contribution.
Take it or leave it.
That's what it is. And I don't even mean that like, but I suppose you're right. You're making me think right now, like, is that just my ego talking, or is it me trying to be? Because you do wonder, like, what is, because, here you have a song, an EP with six songs, I believe.
Yeah.
And there are other contributors on it, and it becomes this thing of like, what is my space on the whole thing? Because it's your face on the cover, it's your name everywhere. It is difficult sometimes to Yeah, collaborating, man. Like it's a whole thing. Like I feel like there should be a podcast that's just solely focused on the psychology of collaboration.
Yeah.
It is so interesting. And this is perhaps my favorite song that I was listening to. I've been listening to. My World. I noticed how you went like very low and then very high, and the execution of that whole thing. And the mix for me is done just right, that it doesn't overpower the vocals. And vice versa. This track still bumps even if the vocals are very clear. You know, sometimes well, I'm difficult, but I do notice that sometimes the balance is uneven in that sense. It is a vocal record, at the end of the day. So can you tell me a little bit about this song, please?
Sure. It was written almost 3 years ago now in London.
I can't believe this.
Yeah. I'm so grateful that I'm like a nerd when it comes to writing, and I always want to do my best. And I'm just like glad that putting in that intention means that like 3 years later, the song is still going to be good and it's going to stand the test of time. And that's really why I make music. It's really not just for a moment. It's for like that moment to be with you forever. And for me and for whoever listens to it. And I was in the studio with Math Times Joy and Locks, two really talented producers based in the UK, Grammy-nominated, Grammy-winning, and another talented writer, Scott Quinn, and he actually did the beautiful back vocals that you hear throughout the song. Yeah, he's crazy. He like stacked the craziest harmonies, and when it came to the mixing, like all these years later, I actually ended up re-recording my original vocals because I was sick the day that we wrote this, and I didn't actually really record the song that day. It was just more like a rough take, and so it was interesting to.
And you guys did all of that in London together.
We did that together, and then a couple of months ago, before starting to mix the project, I re-recorded the vocals to it, and I usually hate re-recording vocals, but this was one. I was going to say, how was that? I mean, in this case, like I had no choice because the song had like the super rough, like scratchy vocals, and it really wasn't complete. So approaching it with a bit more maturity, a bit more skill years later, but still maintaining like the original intention and emotion of the song was, I don't want to say challenging, but I
bet it must have been.
I just wanted to do like the song justice, like the original intent that it had for it to still come through without it feeling forced, right? Like that's such a challenge as a recording artist, is to know that you're performing in the moment that you're recording, but for it to still sound real and authentic and from you and full of feeling and soul, and a lot goes on. But luckily I've been recording myself for the past almost 2 years, so I get to really get into a zone, and I got into it. And
that's a huge challenge to redo vocals. I have old songs that I'm singing on currently. It is impossible.
Yeah,
it's just impossible. Like
you really have to get out of your head and just
you have to accept that this is kind of a new song now. Like whatever vibe you were having back then, it's speaking for myself, I don't know about you, but like you almost got to accept like it's going to be a new thing now.
Yeah,
it's hard to do that.
It is,
because that means that you were listening to that version for 3 years.
Yes,
and then our ears, naturally, we get used to things. Those mistakes aren't mistakes anymore. They're just like, I like this thing. Demoitis, right?
Of course.
Sure. Okay, cool. Damn. That is crazy. I don't know how you can do that.
I mean, it was a necessity. It's either that or not putting the song out in this case.
I like how you say it's a necessity. I get it.
Yep.
So, who's playing on this song with you?
Out of My Way was actually one of the more recent collaborations on the project. It's a couple of months old. I wrote to this and co-produced it with JP. He's based in London, and we worked on this via Zoom. So this was like a new thing for me that came out of COVID, is to start like collaborating and having sessions virtually. Again,
recording sessions or writing sessions?
No, writing sessions.
Okay.
Writing sessions. So like I wrote and we like produced the song, ended the session. I recorded on my own time and...
Excuse me, this song did not exist 2 months ago?
Oh, no, it did. It existed a couple of months ago.
So, like... I'm trying to understand, like, how much of it existed, like, 6 months ago?
We literally produced the song via Zoom a couple of months ago. I can't remember exactly when, from scratch, like...
So 2 months ago, this song did not exist. You wrote it, you finished it, you mixed it, you mastered it, you released it.
Not 2 months. I can't remember when.
This is crazy.
No, I think it's because you're saying a couple of months ago, but like when they first linked up,
like
to have
maybe
this
6
session.
months ago.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, this makes more sense. I got nervous. Like, I don't work this fast.
Oh no, sometimes that ends up happening, but no, this is like maybe 6 months old.
This is crazy. I cannot do songs this fast. I get nervous. Like sometimes I talk to people and they're like so proficient, they're so fast, they're so good. Like,
oh, you should hear some of the stuff. Like our last trip to LA. I mean, Kali's extremely efficient and super quick at writing, and they'll finish a song in a session.
Yeah.
They'll come out of that session with a song that sounds completely finished. It even sounds like it's mastered.
Yeah. Like in 3. Yeah, I mean it really depends, because the particular producer. The particular producer that we're referring to, Jalian. Shout out Jalian. He is a super talented vocal producer, engineer. So he just like is so quick and like can direct me to be like the best version of myself as I'm recording. And there's no such thing as like a rough take. Like after I write and like we produce a song together, it's like, okay, let's go, like start recording right away. And literally in 3 hours we have something that's ready to go, like something that may need some mixing if we're going to incorporate it into a project and we want it to blend together. But other than that, he's a machine.
And do you guys have reference tracks before you, what's a creative discussion with you when we're making a song from scratch? Is there like reference tracks? Is there a direction, or is it just always a blank canvas and nothing?
It's like 90% of the time it's a blank canvas, and we just go based off of mutual feeling and like what we're inspired to do. Sometimes it's like a word or like a common experience. I'm referring to myself and the producer. Other times I'm trying to create a song to fit into a project. So then that's going to have the other songs on the project as a reference. And other times I'll be like fixated on a song. Like for instance, I was really into a track called Moment by Victoria Monet, and I know that I've brought that into like a session before as like a reference for, not necessarily for to mimic the track, but just in terms of a feeling or
to communicate with other people.
Like I'll particularly like point out a song, a part of the production, like the string section or the way it goes into the hook, and I'll use songs as references in that way. But for the most part, it's really just based on feeling, on a real like hippie artist vibe.
That's amazing. It's very interesting. We all have such a different approach to this. I typically bring a song and I tell everybody, this is the song. And we're never that good where we can redo the song. So it always ends up being our own thing.
Mm-hmm, as it should be.
Yeah, of course. But it's like, it really helps me to focus the conversation.
Okay.
Because sometimes I feel like we can get lost, and then it's like... I end up having a computer filled with things that I'm like, I'm never going to touch this again. I should have been more direct.
Yeah.
But for sure, I guess if you're collaborators and you have like a prior understanding, or I suppose just finding the right collaborator.
Yeah, and one who's willing to improvise with me, because I think that's where the magic happens. It's in the moment, like bouncing like ideas off of one another. So sometimes the producer will start with like a drum pattern or just some keys, and then I'll turn to to him. I want to say him or her, but like I rarely work with female producers, which is terrible, but it's not intentional. So if any female producers are
Yeah,
listening
that's
to
right.
this,
Absolutely.
yeah, hit my line. But yeah, I'll usually turn to the producer and be like on like a writing tip just to help direct me. I'll be like, okay, does this sound like it's a song that's set in the daytime? Like, what time of day are we in? Well, I'll
Okay.
just try to like set the scene with them, like getting their approval, because then that'll, if I then say like, okay, this is a song that's set at sunset, that might influence their production,
Right.
like their production choices. And
You're a producer in that sense.
definitely, and that's why
Yeah.
when I say co-produce, for right now, it really means that it's like I really do direct where the song goes. If you know the producer's using an instrument that I like find stale, kind of like certain synths that we were like
Yeah.
discussing earlier
Sure.
that can just come across as like very plastic or fake, I'll be like no, and
Right.
then we'll go from there. But I do know that in the next year, I'll be a lot more practical when it comes to co-producing. I've been producing the past couple of months. I just
Okay.
got the full version of Ableton 11.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big girl now, and will no longer be recording and producing on 8 tracks. So stay tuned.
Whoa. Okay, wait a minute. You were producing on 8 tracks?
I was recording for the past 2 years and producing on 8 tracks.
I'm sorry. Do you mean the analog machine 8 tracks?
No, like I have a light. This is, I'm being so honest. This is like independent artist budget struggle, whatever you want to call it. I had an Ableton Live Lite version that came with my microphone.
Yes, absolutely.
And so,
Yes, I know what you're talking
and
about.
so I have been recording on 8 tracks, which means that I can only have
Oh.
eight waves, eight
Yes,
stems,
8 channels.
8 channels. Yes,
Yes.
sorry, 8 channels, and that just goes to show you how resourceful I can be. And then it helps me when it comes to recording vocals, be like selective on what I want to be the main and the harmony and like what my doubles can be. And it's
Interesting.
limiting, but has worked for the past 2 years. And I'm excited now to basically stack the hell out of my vocals.
That really just means that we lost you because now you're going to be lost in the infinite hell of infinite tracks.
No, I'll start off modestly, but yeah, now I'm gonna level up in that sense.
You know, that's really cool that you brought that up because we are used to having infinite tracks. You know, I have a version of Ableton 9 and I have like multiple tracks, whatever, but there is something about limiting your options. You know, you have to make smarter choices.
Exactly.
You have to sort of, it really works the brain, the sponge in a different way.
It helps you be creative.
Yeah. Think about the fact that the Beatles used to record on 4 tracks.
Yeah.
Isn't that just crazy?
Yeah, it's humbling.
It makes no sense.
Yep.
They just released a movie from the Beatles on Disney Plus,
I saw that.
and I'm a big Beatles fan, and I wasn't necessarily aware of their technical resources because you hear a Beatles record and
You don't question it.
you don't question it, right?
Yeah.
And I was looking at the microphones they were using. You know those really shitty microphones for computers that they had like in 2000, the long stick with the
Yeah.
little foam
Yeah,
tip?
of course.
That's what they were using.
That's crazy.
And those were the records they were making with that.
Wow.
So to say that having Ableton Lite with 8 tracks, at the end of the day, we are our own limitations, right? I also, that's a struggle I have too. Like I have no money, you know, I have no resources. And, you know, I don't like to use all these plugins that I don't own because they keep crashing and they take too much space in my computer, blah, blah, blah. But also then I'm reminding myself, like, hey, you know what? Maybe you should just stop bitching and use what you have anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's good that you're starting to produce because I feel that's just going to give you more control over what you're really trying to say.
Oh my God. Already I can verbalize certain things just because of like my familiarity with like the Ableton
Yes.
software, for instance. Now I know how to treat vocals. I know I can associate words and processing techniques to what I want to hear when it comes to vocal mixing. And yeah, it's just, it
It changes everything.
It changes everything, and I'm a lot less frustrated because I'm not an engineer and I don't have that like language. I don't have that vocabulary, but the more I produce, the more I develop it.
Absolutely. I was a drummer my whole life. And then I was about 17, 18, and I was playing with these really good guitar players. They went to school. I didn't go to school. So they had all this vocabulary, all this language, and these skills to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
And one day my guitar player just took me aside and he just told me, Sasha, you're giving us opinions and you want to contribute, but you're always giving them at the wrong time and you don't know the words. Like,
Shut up, basically.
But you know what? He said it to me like, you got to learn this stuff.
Right.
So, for example, I'm sure just to be able to say, hey, put less decay on my reverb.
Mm-hmm.
That communicates the idea clearly to whoever you're working with that goes, oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Boop. Instead of like, I know I struggled for years going, less of, that thing that's in the background that I don't really get. And then that person's, of course, wants to help you, but is also going, what is she trying to say?
Yeah.
So for sure, it's just more empowering because you're in control of the thing. I find that it's my experience with that too. Like the more I learn, the more I'm like, I can communicate much clearer an idea. And in the collaborative process in which you find yourself in, I bet you it's going to be day and night in 2 months, in 6 months, in a year.
Definitely. It's already a lot easier.
And I'm sure that like within a couple years' time, we'll get an EP that's entirely produced by you.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's going to be... I'm looking forward to that.
It'll be soon enough.
Amazing. Is this also a more recent collaboration?
It is not. It's one of the oldest ones.
Okay.
And it was a writing session I had with a really talented artist, producer called Kofi, who's based in Toronto. And yeah, we wrote this summer of 2018? Yeah, summer of 2018.
So. Okay. Wow. It's funny because it's funny that we did mention this because I wouldn't even have been able to tell. And to hear you earlier say that you write with the intent of having it be timeless, I never think about that. And I feel that I would put too much pressure on myself. Like, again, to just go like, wow, I need to do this thing that's timeless. But it kind of just seems to work for you.
I mean, that's the intent. Thank you. That's the intention, but it's not a lot of pressure because I can only be as best as I can be in that given moment. My best then is not my best now, but I can't beat myself up about it if I just do my best at that time. So it's not pressure. It's just like
it is what it is.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah.
And you say that you're already working on another record.
Oh, it's done.
Okay,
it's
so
done.
That record's done, and then there's another one after that that's pretty much already done.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I write a lot, and luckily, I'm very blessed for music to be my only job right now.
Right.
And so I get to create all the time for the most part when I'm not doing all the other music stuff, like more of like the business side of things along with Jarret. But yeah, a lot of music. Trips to LA really kind of catapult the music creation too, because I just like get into sessions every day, if not multiple times a day.
Oh, we got to get out of Montreal anyways.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. So that's the next step, is just kind of to go out there and make music and just be at the source where I feel like my type of artist can really thrive right now.
Yeah, I could only agree to that statement for sure. I could see you people in California, obviously. Well, the music is sunny.
The music is sunny, and there's just like an infinite amount of resources and community, and some of the more notable or opportunities with
your peers,
with my peers.
Yeah.
I just feel at home there because it's constantly stimulating, and I'm less doubtful and less insecure because it's really easy to live in Montreal and be put into this bubble of like trying to make it when I'm not trying to make it. I've already made it in the sense that I'm already on the same playing field as my idols.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
And I feel that. I feel lateral movements when I'm in LA, and the minute that I come to Montreal, I feel like I'm reaching, even though this is like completely in my head and an illusion. How we perceive our place in this world highly impacts how we move in it. And so I just move better when I'm in LA, because here it's just, I feel like there are so many obstacles. The fact that I'm in English, like an Anglophone artist being like a huge one. The fact that I'm a white Greek girl making predominantly R&B music in Quebec. It's just, there's not a lot of alignment there. There are a lot of layers and not a lot of alignment in the sense that there's just not support from like the music infrastructure here for somebody like me. Even worse for like artists that are like visible minorities, of course.
Absolutely.
So although I do have a lot of privilege, that privilege isn't as obvious when, again, you're an Anglophone artist making R&B out of Quebec.
You know, it's everything you just said, I feel exactly the same. 100%. I also recognize my privileges. It goes without saying. But what you said is very smart. You know, how you perceive yourself within the confines of your environment is how you'll make moves according to. And I could see how going to LA is freeing in that sense. You know,
honestly, the best visual is that like
the parameters.
Yes, and that's exactly it. I see it as being able to sidestep. So if I picture myself in a studio space in LA, like Snow Allegra, John Legend, like Justin Bieber will be in the next room. Like that's very tangible. That's very real.
Yeah, I hear you.
Here, I feel truly miles away in the symbolic sense and in the physical sense.
Yeah, I feel just the same. I feel for me, my home is the UK. 100%.
I feel that.
So it's cool to hear you say that, man, because I often feel alone on my little island too, you know, where it's like, it's just strange because I'm like you, I'm from Montreal. I have no qualms about being here. But it is, like, for me, you know, it's filled with, like, it's bittersweet.
Very much so,
because it's like, why do I have to struggle so much? Like, I mean, not to put myself in on the same level as you, but just on a level where it's like, I represent Montreal. What the fuck more do you want me to do? Like, what you do is amazing, and people should just be like, wow, look at this girl. She's from here. She's killing it. It sounds great. And yet, just because we don't do the French thing, it's very, very weird in that sense. And but at the same time, there's an expression, nul n'est roi dans son pays, right? So, of course, if you're not, like, seldom does it happen where you're celebrated when you're from here. Often a lot of artists have left Montreal, and when they came back, after a point, they were celebrated.
Right. And
not all the time, but, you know.
That's what's so silly. Like, I don't have this sense of entitlement that, like, everybody should like my music. Like, that's not what it's about, and that's not it.
I hear you, of course. I understand.
It's just really in, like, the in-between moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like this idea of artists that are from here that are performing at, like, a really high standard, and they're, like, competing internationally with artists that move our lives and, like, impact our communities. The fact that I have to, like, leave for that to be recognized, and not just myself, but, like, all of my counterparts that are trying to, that are, like, currently living in a musical space. I just find that really unfortunate and so cliche.
Yeah. But I think you guys are doing great in that sense, and it's really inspiring to see you guys, because I am aware of that dynamic, you know. I can see the way you guys are moving, and it's like, okay, those two are not fucking around. It's really good to see that, and we live in such a beautiful time now where, like, you know, music can transcend, like, it doesn't have to be so territorial anymore, right? Okay, so you guys are saying that there's another record coming out this year? No.
Top of 2022.
Shit.
Yeah.
And man, okay, well, we'll talk about that when we get there. But I would like to ask you, winding the whole thing down,
Sure.
what is one difficult aspect of your creative process?
Oh, a difficult part of the creative process. It's to always connect back to why I enjoy making music, to the therapeutic aspect, and to not get so caught up in the industry part. I think the streaming game that we feel like we have to play in order to exist and to like live off of our music, it could be a huge distraction from the soul part of the art. And again, I hate to bring back the soul over ego thing. It's just, it really is like a compass for me. And when it comes to creating and just day-to-day decision making, it really helps kind of reframe that, because I can get really caught up in comparing myself with other artists who might be landing more playlists or like more, I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you.
Things that are based on like numbers and moves that don't really matter at the end of the day. And that
The focus of...
And in regards to how that impacts the creation, it's sometimes you'll start to like doubt your intuition and like what you do naturally and want to pivot into something that may be more likable by the masses, may be more likable and more easily consumed on platforms like TikTok, for instance. I know that a lot of artists right now, they're incorporating that into their song production process and like their song creating process, because they're like, you know, it has to be likable on TikTok and people need to be able to make a dance on it, and has to be short enough to be, you know, consumed by these tweens. And
I don't know what to make of that concept.
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie, all those things have crossed my mind, and I wonder if, you know, to advance my career and to just like level up, because we're always kind of looking to level up in how we strategize and how we move, Jarret and I, it's come into my mind to want to adapt to incorporate that TikTok community. But I think given that music is also my job and I have to be aware of the business side, I think it's fine to be aware of that and to maybe want to try things out that may appeal to that market, but it shouldn't make me feel
dictate.
insecure or dictate or consume me or change the message behind my art, because I started off making music always wanting to convey realness, convey something that's human and that people can connect to and feel better about themselves, or just make music that makes people feel seen, and not to just make music that is going to get attention.
I hear you 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you for that beautiful answer. I really understand it, and I relate to that. I had two things I wanted to mention that you brought up in what you just said. I looked up your stream numbers on Spotify, and I don't know what to make of that number.
What do you mean?
Well, it feels like if I believe it was like 150 or 350,000 monthly listeners, something retarded. And I don't know anything, okay? I'm just talking out loud. I'm just saying, like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Listening every month. It almost feels like you should be like, it almost feels like you shouldn't even be walking anymore. You should just be levitating. Like, that's a lot of people. I don't get it. And yet, and I don't know your personal situation, but I know that streaming being what it is, that's probably little to no amount of money, you know? And it's just kind of crazy because to bring it back to what you said, the business side of it, you know, it's like, okay, well, I know for a fact I have this many listeners on that streaming platform. It messes with your head and thinking like, but what's it all worth it really?
Right.
And it's the same with TikTok and being an artist and being an entertainer and all those things that cross, you know, like I also feel and this is probably where Jarret has a more of a pointed opinion on the matter, you know, you do want to appeal and you do want to have like a presence on TikTok, but it's like, it must be hard to navigate where are we sort of taking, it's not natural anymore, you know, what we're putting out there. And it's like, it is challenging because I don't like, we are on those platforms, but do you know anybody? Like when I watch those videos, I don't know anybody's song. Like, you know, it doesn't strike me as like, oh, I'm going to go download this and listen to it. Mm-hmm. It's always these weird remixes of a remix of a remix.
Right.
It's strange.
Yeah.
And then we are told that we have to do those things, you know? Mm-hmm. Anyways. Guys, I just want to say thank you very much for coming today. And you guys were as thoughtful in your answers as I thought you would be. And I just want to say thank you for sharing all that with me, for taking the time to listen to the whole record. Yeah, have a good week.
Likewise. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.